Hi, my name is Andrew McLaren, and I want to show you how you can use AI art to enhance some classroom teaching and learning. These are intended for people who are at like very basic levels, who are not really intending to spend money on this, but just trying to use the free platforms for creating AI art. And you can see a couple examples that I've made here for free using these platforms. You can do more if you pay for it or if you have some more technical skills. There's some really cool things that you can do where you can like put your face on different images. But this is intended for people who aren't super techy and know how to train a model. So really what you can do with AI art is pretty limited, and a lot of people overestimate its ability. So in this video, I wanted to show you what it really does and show you a ton of different examples where you can see some issues that they're having, as well as some things where it actually does it pretty well. So it's like, okay, well, how can I use that what it does well in the classroom? Um, the main things that I've seen that it struggle with is hands and like numbers of teeth and some of those finer details in images. Like if you kind of look at the image, it looks okay, but on closer inspection, it's like kind of nightmarish. Um, and there's a number of things where I've asked it to give me a model. It can't put words on there right now. I'm sure in the future it will be able to, but anything where you're asking for a model that has labels, it's just going to give you just gibberish in terms of the writing. It looks not even like English, it's like a mix between all these different languages being combined. Um, but what it does really nicely is enhance pre-existing photos. So you can change a photo and make it have a certain style, or you can create some very quick and easy art that is oftentimes beautiful. Sometimes it has some weird parts to it, but the art is really cool. But I wouldn't use it for anything more than like an ooh or an ah kind of effect where you might have like a phenomenon that catches their attention. You could use AI art to do a lesson on AI art and what it can and cannot do, very similarly to what I'm doing right now. But beyond that, currently, these free platforms do not let you do much more than that. So I'm going to show you a couple examples with Dalle 2, Deep Dream, OpenArt, and Bing, which has Dalle 3 integrated into it. So you can get what is normally the paid version for free and do as many submissions as you'd like through Bing. So there's a couple different options here. I am going to warn you that the Open Art platform does have some not safe for work content on that platform. So I would not encourage you to have students use that, though you yourself could use it to create some interesting content. I've actually am a pretty big fan of the Open Art. You'll see why in terms of like the content. It does look pretty good with the models that they're using there. All right. So when I was looking into this, I was curious what ChatGPT would say Dale can do, and it cannot do almost any of these things that it says it can do. And I asked it to give me a couple prompts for image generation, and I actually used these prompts here in a couple different platforms and just kind of compared them. So I'll show you each platform, and then you should be able to see how they did the same prompt in those different platforms. That's the main game plan for this. I wanted like detailed prompts because the more detail you put in these things, typically the better the art. So that is the general overview of why I wanted to show you here. So I've had access to Dali for longer, so there's some things in the history here that are just like me playing around, but I figured that would be kind of interesting to look at as well. So there was like, I was trying to get a thumbnail for a video that I've made, and you can see the writing here is like, it looks like writing, and it kind of understands the prompt, but it doesn't quite work. It can't do the writing, and then even the person right here, there's some issues with the person that generated. Like hands can't really do, faces, some parts of the face are kind of weird, and then like I don't even know what she's eating there. It was kind of a little bit bizarre what it ended up generating when I asked it to do that prompt. But I took that image, and you can take that image and ask it to generate variations of it. And when it did that, it kind of gave me the same person. There's some of these that look a little bit better, and some of them that look a little bit weirder in different ways. So you can see that, like, I mean, this lady's got an awesome sense of fashion, but it's kind of a little bit bizarre. And I was like, wait, hold on, that's I wanted to have something showing why teachers should eat lunch in their room alone, and this is just like this person's having like an epiphany or something. It's kind of weird. Um, Now I was playing around with this. I do like my like tartans, and I also like my samurai, so I asked it to make some art, and that was kind of interesting, some of the stuff that it came up with. But going back to our prompts, I was trying to get like something related to, let's see, I think that this was me just kind of playing around. This is actually pretty cool what it does when you try and play around with things. I was trying to make like sci-fi cover art and things and some diagrams. It didn't really do great with the diagrams because the more words that it thinks it should be putting on, typically the worse quality you get as a result, is what I've noticed. Um, Here we go. This is going to be something where this is like an actual prompt from ChatGPT that I was trying to put into this platform. So you can see, I mean, that doesn't really help me understand ecosystem very well, besides maybe that one. Water cycle, it's just showing water. Like this doesn't show the water cycle, it doesn't show condensation, precipitation, there's no labels. Um, I mean, they look okay as images. And then it was trying to get something about the Raven, and I assume a lot of stuff that you see online about the Raven has some sort of quote or text in it because it's trying to put that in these, but not very well, as you can see. There's also, this was one of my more interesting prompts where it was like ethical dilemmas with autonomous weapons. I kind of like this one, honestly. It's a little bit fuzzy, but a lot of these other ones are like, I don't really know how that's autonomous weapons, but kind of interesting art. Looks kind of visually cool, you know? And then this was, I was just, I think, trying to play around with this just to get something that looked cool. So if you're looking to make something that looks cool or sci-fi-y or something like that, very good. If you're trying to create like actual prompts where the this is something that you would use in the classroom for like a model for a concept or something like that, it cannot do that. And it really, really struggles. So there's Dalle, and we'll show you a couple of these other ones. So I also wanted to show you something called Deep Dream. It's a really interesting platform that's been around for a long time where you can generate images based off of other images and kind of like puts effects on top of other images. So you can see like this image right here came from that and it had a certain effect. So this is something that like phones are trying to do more and more nowadays, just kind of stylizing you a little bit or putting something on top of you. So it's a similar sort of thing. But if we're talking about the prompts, this is the autonomous weapon prompt that I used, so you can see the prompt there. This was probably one of my favorite pieces of art. That's why I included it in here we go. In what we were looking at there. Come on, let's see our images. So if we look at some of these other images, here's the water cycle. And we've got the Declaration of Independence. This actually does look like the image that you see online, but it's like a different angle, so that's kind of cool. I thought that was interesting. Like that would be something that I might use in class. Um, but it's a little bit bizarre, some of these other things. The Raven, I like that. It's still got some kind of bizarre writing that's not real words, but definitely gets across that feeling. This was supposed to teach you about the Pythagorean theorem, but as you can tell, this is completely useless at teaching kids about what the Pythagorean theorem is. It just is very unclear. Some sci-fi posters, very cool. I really like some of these. They've got a cool effect. I mean, the planets aren't perfectly round, so it doesn't quite understand everything. Here's the teacher at lunch that it generated, but how many fingers does she have? A lot there. It's like kind of weird. And then there was a choose your own adventure, like it was supposed to be creating some images for like a choose your own adventure kind of story with Egypt, which I mean it looks cool. It looks like an adventurous image, but it doesn't look like a choose your own adventure. So it's not quite there where you can use this for instructional materials, but you can use it for like cool looking things. This is supposed to be the trade winds. They don't look like this at all. Interesting image though, kind of cool looking. Um, this is a domed city on Mars. Definitely interesting art, and I like the style of it. So there's like if you're trying to make something pretty or cool, very good. And then this is a face. I think that I tried to make have a galaxy that looked like a face or a cat galaxy or something like that. And then oh yeah, this was supposed to be, I believe, a science concept, and this was supposed to be a plant or animal cell model of an analogy, I believe. Yeah, I wanted to have there be some analogy of a plant or animal cell. You can see that these are interesting little images, but it doesn't get across the analogy of all these parts coming together clearly. But it's kind of cool looking. I definitely like it. Let's see, what was the this was a thumbnail that you could use for your class. And I thought like, okay, that actually maybe I would use that for the class. I don't know. And then I was trying to get it to turn me into an astronaut. That person to me kind of looks like me, but not really. And then I asked it to turn me into a cyborg, and using like a pre-existing image, and it created a person that looks completely different than me. It's kind of got the profile, it's got like the circle, but like it's a very different looking person, right? So um, it isn't perfect. Like those things where people get their faces on stuff, those are trained models. It's not like a general AI art generator, but it's trained off of your face. So these things don't quite do that if you're looking for that. But it creates some cool looking stuff if you want to have something to catch students' eyes on a slide. I think that's perfectly okay. All right, so I've got some of the open art platform right here, and you can see that some of these look pretty cool. I definitely liked the giant city planet that has fallen and now it's turning into an agrarian society. That was pretty cool. And then there was some stuff I think for the depicting the water cycle. This is probably my some of my favorite results that I got from that prompt. So it actually does look like the water cycle. Also, you can see that there's a not safe for work label because a lot of these platforms on OpenAI, you can do different models that are based off of different inputs. And so, like, some of these models are going to be like totally not appropriate for school because they can, yeah, do all kinds of stuff that you're not looking to have done in school, right? I think that there's a different platform on here. All right, so if you're on OpenAI and you're trying to create an image, it will give you the Open Art Creative, and the default one is standard. It should be creating images that are not like sexually explicit, but as you can see, there's a couple of them on here that are going to be going into some realms of pornographic images, so you need to be careful with this. You can't just let students onto OpenAI, and you have to be really smart about you as a teacher, not um, encouraging them to do this. You might tell them that you've got some AI that's been generated, but if you were using AI art from Open Art, you might not tell them where it came from. Just one of those teacher decisions where it's like, well, maybe I want to keep this from them because I don't want to be getting in trouble, right? So we also have like the Declaration of Independence, pretty good. I like that one. That came out pretty good. The Raven image also came out not half bad. And again, completely worthless in terms of teaching an actual concept like Pythagorean theorem. These are not showing Pythagorean theorem even in there. It's just got something that kind of looks like triangles. This was the global wind pattern. Again, that does not look like a global wind pattern. It almost looks like the Earth, but not quite. Um, and then this was the choose your own adventure set in ancient Egypt. I thought this was kind of interesting what it ended up doing with like the hieroglyphic kind of style art. That'd be kind of cool to do a choose your own adventure, but stylized in um, hieroglyphics, but it's not usable in its form. We've got the autonomous weapons. I actually really liked that image, and this one looks like a little skull. Definitely interesting. There was oh yeah, some space elevators I tried to have it make. And then here we've got some teachers eating lunch like I did with the other platform just to kind of see if I could get some good thumbnails. But if you look at their hands, they're kind of weird. And then like this lady's like double fisting, I think like tacos or something. And then like how many salads does she have during lunch there? It's a little bizarre, right? And then I wanted to just see what it would do if I asked it to show it teaching students. Um, and there's some interesting images, but as you can look, like the keyboards are super weird, like super, super weird. They aren't like real computers. Um, and then I asked it just to generate some laptops for me, and this is like really interesting to me. I don't know why it can't make a laptop, but it gets something that almost looks like a laptop. I was curious also if it would draw like what it thought a scientist looked like, and that was kind of interesting because I've done that with students, like draw me a scientist, and then we'd kind of talk about that. And this is also interesting. It's like, well, what does AI think a scientist looks like? Looks like a lot of white people in lab coats and doing chemistry or something like that. There's a lot of different scientists doing different things. You can see it's having a hard time with the safety goggles. But I mean, the foreground looks amazing. It looks like really like an actual image to me. Then not real words are in this diagram. This whole thing is just bizarre. If you look closely, it's just like not actual words, but it looks almost like an educational diagram, but it's just kind of making up all kinds of stuff. And then, oh, I really like this one. A galaxy that resembles like a human face, but then like other attempts were just like, okay, that's just like not good. And then there's a cat chasing a mouse, but then I got like this cat mouse thing. That was bizarre. So it kind of is interesting. I did like that one though. This one's bizarre. This is the cat mouse thing as well. It's kind of like what is going on there? Um, brace yourself. This one is a little bit creepy, but I wanted a robot. This doesn't look like a robot. It just looks like a creepy doll to me. So there's some interesting things where it associates things together. We got that domed city. A number of these things are kind of cool. I like the art where it's like creative stuff. But then here's the analogy for a cell, completely worthless, not usable at all, besides for the purpose of students like understanding like non-examples, right? Like this is not what I'm going for. Um, and then there was some other stuff where we generated, yeah, I tried to make it make me look like an astronaut. Kind of worked, but not perfectly. And then I made it have me look like a Simpsons character. Got some interesting results. And then there's what do we have here? Yeah, convergent plate boundary, completely worthless. This is not what a convergent plate boundary really looks like. It's maybe showing some convergent plate boundaries there, but it's very unclear. And then I wanted a model, and it was just even worse in terms of making something look like a convergent plate boundary. But it's kind of interesting, definitely a little bit interesting, but not super useful beyond like the ooh and ah effect. So if you want to generate images using Dalle 3 with Bing, you can do that with bing.com/create. That will take you to this place where you can type in the prompts and you can create there. I've got my creations that I've already made here. So we'll kind of start with some of these older ones. This is, I think, on an older model. So I wanted a claim from CER. As you can see, not real words. It's kind of interesting. I like some of these cell analogy projects. It almost looks good. This almost kind of works, but not quite. Um, you can see that there's a lot of emphasis on what these things kind of look like. it's it is interesting, but like if a student did this, they would be getting very little points if like a zero on the assignment because it just kind of misses the mark entirely. And I think this was the Egypt Choose Your Own Adventure. Kind of looks like a board game kind of thing. This one is I think kind of cool because it looks actually like, oh, maybe this is like you go here or you go there, and like so there's some really interesting art and it looks cool, but it's not really functional for the lesson. Pythagorean theorem is not really being shown on these. It's just kind of like cool looking art. Like that's very cool looking, but like not really useful, right? This is actually getting closer to actually being useful. The ecosystem one actually looks okay. The words are like fake, but it gets across this idea of like an ecosystem in a sense. But it's like, eh, that's not neat though. Those words are not quite spelt right, so it's kind of close but not quite right, you know. And so there's some interesting things that you can get from this, and like very cool things that you can use for like thumbnails for your lessons with some slight alterations, of course. Um, and then the water cycle, this actually does look like the water cycle to me. This I'm actually pretty happy with. Like this would be something that you could use potentially. And this one almost has the words, but not quite. But we're getting closer. This is so funny. The CEO our poster that it made. All these posters. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Revolution. This is better though. Cosmic Energy Revolution. Now I really want to see this, don't you? Oh man. In any case, this is actually like a claim evidence reasoning looking poster, and it almost looks like it's got the words on there, but not quite. And it's just too blurred together between all these different things. So it's like not quite useful, but kind of cool to see. I definitely enjoy seeing what it's doing as a poster and making the posters look interesting. It's got like some good design elements, but not super useful. So if you want something that looks cool, all of these options work pretty well. If you want something that you can actually use for instruction, not really great. It's more of like a hook, or if you're trying to teach students what these things can or cannot do, which could be a great lesson in of itself. Thank you for McLearning with me. Before you go, please check out the following services that I offer with my business. So if you click the link in my videos, this goes to my website. I might be changing it from Podia because I'm no longer doing the interactive videos for sale. I might put those up for free. But most of my other services are linked here. So you can see that I've got like a Teachers Pay Teachers and a Wyzant. The Teachers Pay Teachers has a lot of my assessments that I have for like the NGSS, as well as lessons that I made when I was actually a teacher in the classroom. So I've got quite a few things like CERs and other things on there. If you want to get one-on-one live support from me, either like with science or like working on like teaching support lessons and that kind of stuff, you can sign up through Wyzant. I have a link to there where you can contact me there, and we can schedule hourly appointments. And I've got a few other things on here like a Facebook page, and other social media. And if you're interested in getting professional development with me for like a team of teachers, a whole page with information on that. So yeah, feel free to check that out. Thank you.